How is everyone doing this evening as I readjust? I know I will be being joined by my co-author, hello, soon. I think he's already on. There he is. He beat me today. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I see books being sorted right in front of me.
Well, a little bit. I don't have as cool of a backdrop as you do, so.
Hey, no, I now advise all authors to try to figure out how to get those inverse posters going on because I love it. It's like my display piece now.
Oh, it's awesome. Where my desk is, I don't have any place. Like my bookshelf is on the other end of my office, and there's no good way to do that. So for the lives, I used to put my chair over there and all the lighting over there, but it was such a pain in the rear to do that. So
I can
I was
understand
just like, I was like, Screw that.
that. Nope, absolutely not. No, I totally understand. But I don't know if you've listened to any of my lives before, but kind of what I do is just make sure you tell everybody on my end who you are, what you write, a little bit about yourself, and I'll do vice versa. And then from there, we just talk writing books and wherever.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. And I've been stalking your website and your Amazon profile and stuff too. So, lots of cool stuff out there. Anyway, so my name's Tiger Herbert and I write, epic fantasy, high fantasy, specifically NobleBright. I don't know if your, watchers are familiar with that. But NobleBright is essentially kind of a harkening back to the traditional epic and high fantasy. It's kind of that contrast to grimdark that's super popular these days, right? So that's kind of what that is. So I write in that vein, and I kind of write in two different lengths, and that's kind of something new. So when I first started writing, I was writing like the big,
Yep.
over the
Yep.
sized stuff, not quite Robert Jordan sized, but really large, big cast of characters, high stakes. The whole world is coming to an end, and as much as I love that, it just takes a really long time to write those books, at least for me. And so I also have like a shorter books that I write that are still very much like epic high fantasy, still high stakes, but smaller cast of characters. And those books I can write a lot faster. So
Oh, yeah.
that's kind of just a little bit about the different types of fantasy that I write.
Oh, that's so cool. Because I didn't know the term, you said epic bright? I love that
Noble Bride.
because that's kind of what my young adult series is the epic bride. Now that you described it, I was like, oh, I love this term because I do go to like the grimdark to one side and epic bright on the other. So I kind of do a range of themes and how positive versus grim they can be.
Yeah.
But for anybody who doesn't know me, I am Katharine Wibell. I am a writer of epic fantasy, and as I was just mentioning, they can fall into different categories depending on the series. Right now, I have 3 series at the moment, and I guess I'll start with the lightest of them. So I have a young adult adventure portal fantasy, Epic Bright. So that's really fun because kind of like what you were talking about, my full length books are meaty. I do have large cast of characters, even though I write from one viewpoint. I still have
Okay.
parts of like probably several hundred when it gets to some of these bigger multiverses that I write of characters. So I understand
Okay.
how it can take a long time to write some of these books and keep everybody or keep track of everybody at least. But that series, the Jed Chronicles, has 2 out at the moment. The third will hopefully be slipped in before the end of the year. And it's just a fun series. It's a mashup of all different kind of mythological creatures, beast beings, because I love world mythologies. My other 2 series, I have the Incarne Saga, which was actually my debut series. It's 4 books. It's a darker war shifter fantasy. So it probably 4 of my books has the smallest cast of characters, but will be also the shortest series I've written so far. But I
Okay.
like that one because it deals with a kingdom on the verge of war, and the humans and the shifter or shapeshifters have to decide if they can put aside their differences and work together to fend off an evil. And then my final series kind of, again, going along, I like how you think, because going along with having those shorter works to kind of slip in between a larger piece, I have my Dark Viking fantasy, and it's called The Guardian Speaker. Right now there are 6 out. They're novellas, so again, they are that kind of short thing. I really do like them because they're quick reads, they're fun, they were a challenge for me to write shorter, even though I still have this very dynamic universe, because it's based off Norse mythology. So 9 worlds, all the different mythological entities that are in Norse mythology are viewed through that series. So it's a lot
That's
of fun to
awesome.
write. Yeah.
That's awesome. One of the things that, for people who are interested in maybe exploring fantasy for the first time, maybe they've read a bunch of other stuff and they like the idea of fantasy, but then you give them a book that's 400, 600, 800 pages, and you give them a huge cast of characters. Some people are just, that's overwhelming to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the shorter fantasy, to be able to have that as kind of almost an entry point, especially for people that maybe aren't as familiar with the genre or maybe just not familiar with your work. It's a great way. And it doesn't mean that it has to be just 3 short books. It could be 8 books, 9 books, 15 books, or whatever, as long as you build a world that can handle it. So, and there's a number of authors who have been really successful writing in that, like, kind of business model, if you will. So yeah, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so okay, you started with your larger works, correct? Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's right.
what got you thinking I should try to challenge myself to write a shorter size novel?
So, well, I guess I got to back up and say
Yeah.
that when I first started writing, I had no, like, plan or intention or any knowledge of anything. So when I was like, I want to write a story like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, like something just that's just super. It just screams fantasy, and it'll be fun, and it'll be on my bucket list. I'll just cross it off, and I actually started out doing it as a blog. It was 1 chapter at a time. And I was like, I'm going to get rich. I'm going to be a blogger who makes all kinds of money and I can quit my job. Rude awakening, that didn't even come close to happening. But what I did find out is, as I started writing, like, it started after just a few chapters. I was like, I actually have something here. So I thought I would just write a story. I had no plans. There was zero world building. There was nothing. I was just totally pantsing the whole thing. And, like, as I got close to the end of the book, I realized, like, I could write a bunch of books. Like, this world has room for that. So I finished the first book, and then as it was going through editing, and the first publisher that I went through back before I was indie, it was in their hands, and I was like, well, I got to start writing something else. But the next book it could take me years to finish it, because I was a super slow writer back then. And I was like, I probably, like, there's people, if they like my book and it takes me another 3 years to write another book, I'm going to lose the 3 or 4 fans I pick up along the way. So, so I started writing these short stories, and some of it was just to, like, get better at writing, because I wasn't trained. I didn't go to school for this. I just had some crazy ideas that I wanted to write one day. And so I started writing these short stories, and it was all these very specific characters and these little mini story arcs. Well, then I was like, I'm writing these story arcs, but, like, I can actually see, I thought they were unrelated, but they all can connect into one bigger story arc, which was totally unplanned. So I was like, the gears started turning, and I was like, I could turn this into a, I didn't even know what a novella was, if I'm being completely honest at the time. But I was like, I can turn this into a really short book, and it'll be set in the same world, and I'll use it as a prequel to get people introduced into my books, and I can get it out there before the next big book. So it was like something shorter to get out there before the next novel. And that was, like, the whole plan. It was like a one-time deal, and people loved it. And I had a lot of fun writing it. And then I just started getting into writing short stories just for fun. And so then I was like, okay, well, I really need to finish this series, and they're all big books. But then I got to, what was it? I think after, I'm trying to remember the order of these. I think it was after, like, my 5th book, maybe. I was like, this series is taking way too long. And I had this interest to write this other series. And so I just took a break and I spent like 6 months to just crank out a whole other trilogy set in a different world that is basically shorter books. They're like 200 pages each, 50, 60,000 words. And so I just focused for like 6 months just to crank those out really quickly and then to like rapid release those, get it done, and then I could go back and finish like my original series. So sorry, that's a really long answer, but yeah.
Oh no, I love, it's always fascinating to see, well, try to get into another author's mindset, because yeah, I understand that, like, when you begin, especially if you are someone like me who had no clue what you were doing, it took forever to kind of get a clue of what I was doing. So that bogged me down on how quick I could release books. So yeah, my first series took a while to put out there, and I was putting out maybe one a year, and I was getting nervous because that's a long time nowadays where people are so used to binge reading and
Yeah.
to get something out. And there are a group of people who won't touch a book unless the series is complete, which also breaks my heart.
Right.
As an author, I'm just like, buy it now, support me now while I'm in the
So
process.
I can keep writing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so right now I'm actually releasing both my total opposite ends of the spectrum, my adult grimdarkish fantasy and my, I'm going to remember this name, Epic Bright Young Adult Portal Fantasy at the same time. But I'll
NobleBright.
probably produce, one of those a year is my goal, and then 4 of these a year, because they are those small little novellas, and try to keep people, if you are a reader who just likes to read all my work, entertained. And if not, I'm really trying. I'm trying to figure out new ways to reach people. But okay, I have some comments popping up on my side. One says,
Okay.
it took me a long time to figure out how to get my productivity up. Support without a full series is everything. Yes, it's hard to get, trying to get people to buy into a series when you don't have one complete, especially for authors who are just beginning out. Please do that.
Yes. I mean, it's tough. Like if you, and I'm not saying this is how you have to approach it, but if you're a,
I think I lost service, and I don't know if it's on my, oh, sorry, I lost you there for a second. Start over.
no, so I have a timer to help me be more productive on
Oh,
TikTok,
talking
and
about
it takes
productivity.
me
There
out.
you go.
So, speaking of productivity, no, you bring up a really good point, because, if you, and I'm not saying this to like be judgy towards any indies or anything like that, or even be prescriptive and say you have to do it a certain way. But if you want to do highly professional quality books, quality covers, quality editing, and I realize you can build up to that, but if you want to do that, depending on the genre, especially, because some genres you can do a great stock photography cover for $80 and it can look great with some nice font. In epic fantasy, it's a lot harder to get away with that depending on what your actual subgenre is. I can't get away with stock art with my books just based on what I write and the target audience. That's not going to fly. So that means I'm spending, $800, $1,000 or more on a cover. And if you're writing a book that's 120,000, 200,000 words or something like that, you're paying per word to edit, you're talking a lot of money. So you can invest a couple $1,000s in a book.
Yes.
Easily. And that's not talking marketing. That's not talking, sending out art copies. That's not talking about any of that stuff. So you can be a couple $1,000s in the hole. And if people aren't willing to help support you along the journey, it makes it really hard. And most of us as indies are doing this as a passion side project. Like most of us, it's not like the money's just rolling in to where, oh, no big deal. It's just $3,000 to produce that next book, right?
Oh, yeah.
And if it's a long series, you could be talking $10,000 in the hole before people are willing to take a chance, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right now I'm starting to dabble with audiobooks, and depending, obviously, if you know how much you know about audiobooks, there's a whole variety of ways you can either pay or split income or everything, and so those are expensive too. which again, as a author trying to reach as many readers, having the more variety of options is better, but is also that much more expensive. A couple more comments pop
Yeah.
ups. One's some saying you have to get actual artists for the covers. All my covers are professionally done. Yes. Oh yes, because
Yeah.
some stock images, like you were saying, can be dressed up and look nice. But yeah, depending on genre, especially what you're talking about, if you were mentioning, was it Robert Jordan earlier? But like, if you look at the covers from his era, I mean, they're beautifully, hand, painted, all these gorgeous stuff. Actually, if you have one of your book covers, I know it'll be reversed, but show the beautiful. Wow. Yes. Oh, I love it. See, I mean, it is fantastic when you get a cover that is, this is what authors drool over.
Yeah.
Formatting and beautiful covers. So pretty. I love it.
Formatting is a whole other nightmare. And yes, I've definitely paid for that too, because I hate it.
Gorgeous. I love the dragons. Oh man. I'm a dragon fanatic, so anytime I see a dragon, I'm like, you have sold me. And I know there is a counter push of people who are the opposite. They're like, I won't read any fantasy with dragons because they're overdone. And I'm sure, yes. But on the other hand, each author approaches it differently, and I'm a sucker. I love dragons, so sold.
I think that's super fun there. And I definitely hear more people, obviously everybody has their own, but I hear more people say dragons, yes. Like, because dragons. So, it's definitely, and I love writing them. And then every author, like you said, has their own take on them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, are they intelligent? Are they human like? Do they have their own intelligence and their own motivations? Are they animalistic? Are they dragon riders or not? There's just so many cool different things that you can do with them. So yeah, I get super geeked out about that.
Well, as a side note, and this is a total side note, my other occupation, since one day I would love to support myself fully on my writing, but until then, I'm also an artist on the side. And that art was one of the things I did study when I was going to college. And so my senior art show, because every graduate has to host their own art show, a solo show, mine was all themed on the dragon history. So it was like styled as if you're going into a history museum, and I had different like displays of the anatomical aspects and famous dragon slayers of history, different species. And in the back of the art gallery, I had this giant, I made a paper mache, the size probably comparable to a T-Rex skull, but a dragon head bursting through into the gallery with glowing eyes and everything. So I love dragons. When I say love, it's awesome. Like exclamation for days, love, but
that is awesome.
And another comment, dragons and Excalibur, welcome to my series. Yeah, see? Okay, yes, dragons. I love it. Okay, so describe a little bit about your world. I don't know. I haven't asked, so I don't know. Are both your series, your little smaller, shorter works and the thicker works, are they set in the same universe? Or are they different universes? Like, how are you approaching your writing? Let everybody know.
Yeah, sure. So the two series are separate universes. And so the first world is with the larger books, the big traditional classic epic fantasy series is very much like readers generally say it's like a blend of Lord of the Rings, Narnia, Dungeons and Dragons, and World of Warcraft. Like if you took those four things and if you blended it together, that's generally what readers feel when they read that, what they experience. So like I have orcs are a big deal in my world, but they're very much like the World of Warcraft style of orcs rather than the Tolkien orcs. And orcs are some of the main characters in my story. So it's the atypical characters. There's different races. There's elves, there's dwarves, which are pretty traditional, a slight variation in my take on it, but they're going to feel very familiar. But whereas the orcs are different. So you have dragons, you have magic, you have a different mythical beasts, you have titans. And so kind of the premise for the Beating Back the Darkness series is that So there was a magical event that took place that the readers and the even the characters in that first book, they don't really understand. But what happened is during this event, dragons were corrupted. And so the dragons, after they were corrupted, they became too dangerous to be allowed to be free in the world anymore. And
Mm.
so they had to be imprisoned magically thousands of years before. But in the day that the book starts, you find out one of them has escaped. And so this dragon he's been imprisoned for a long time, and he eats souls, and he's
Oh
hungry.
no.
So yeah, so that's kind of the premise for Dragon's Fire. And so what you have is you have like war breaking out on this one particular continent, and you have all these races that generally don't like each other, but they have to make choices. Are they going to form alliances? Are they going to try to go it alone and, just kind of, pardon the language, but kind of all hell breaks loose at that point. So that's kind of that one world. And then through that journey, as the characters go, the characters they're not familiar. Like, magic isn't common anymore. Dragons are things of legend. So they're having to learn things that were present in their world as the story progresses through the books, because magic is coming back, or they're being exposed to it again. There's a dragon, and that, so all of this
Yeah.
is kind of unfolding. So as the reader, you're experiencing it with the characters as they're kind of learning their own history of their world, if that makes sense.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Now, yeah, I'm just started recently reading The Wheel of Time, so it kind of reminds me a little bit like that, where they're rediscovering some lost material, and as you're reading through, as you're relearning the magic of a universe that it's kind of tapered away for whatever reason. But that's
Right.
fantastic. so
It's
what?
fun.
So what got you? What inspired you to write this particular series? Because I know you said you started a little while ago. I don't know if something like clicked and you were like, I want to create a Tolkien like world because I think I can do it better, or do a new twist, or what inspired you?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny to me. When I was young and I was growing up, my grandmother was a big influence for me, and she loved books. She was trying to get me to read from a very early age, but I didn't want to. I didn't want anything to do with reading or books. And for the first, few years of school, I really struggled. Like, I just didn't want to read. And she was really trying to share the love of books. I didn't want anything to do with it. I just wanted to go play and watch movies. And as a kid, I was very big into sports, but I was also like watching the old Hobbit cartoon and the old Lord of the
Yes,
Rings animations from like the 70s and the 60s, and like everything that was fantasy related was what I gravitated to even at a young age. I didn't even know what fantasy meant. I just knew that if it
I
had a
like.
certain look, I liked it. If it had dragons and swords, I wanted it. And so I never was a big reader. Even when I got good at reading, I never was interested in reading much until I was pretty much, becoming an adult. And so I was like, well, I mean, I've seen the Hobbit cartoon, and the Lord of the Rings movies getting ready to come out. I probably ought to actually read the books themselves. So I did that, and then I just really loved it. So I started getting into reading. I started reading like some Dragonlance and some other stuff like that, and just getting exposure. And I was always playing video games. Like, I played all the Diablo games and all the World of Warcraft stuff back in the day, and I just always wanted that. So it was just, I was like, I just want to write a story with a dragon in it and heroes who have to fight the dragon. And that was really it. It's really simple.
Yeah, I have a couple comments. Talk about Dragon Riders of Pern. Yes, I remember reading those, right? Anne McCaffrey. Love the series. Yes. But yeah, kind of like, I will admit, when I loved fantasy books, but I was reading, younger, probably middle grade or whatever it was before then. And by the time I reached for Lord of the Rings, it was probably a little over my head at that time, and I kind of had that pushback where I was like, wow, this is dense. I'm just staring at it being like, this is a lot to take in. I didn't know how to
Mm-hmm.
feel about it. And only recently have I gone back to kind of reread some of that stuff, because the books I read right now are the denser style fantasy, or even the origins of fantasy, also all the
Mm-hmm.
sagas and eddas and, you know, the source material of mythology and what inspired Tolkien. So going back to Tolkien now, I was like, oh, I enjoy it so much more now. I just needed to be a little older. But yeah,
Okay.
so I'm kind of like with you. Like I remember that era of those cartoon, The Hobbit and everything. The same illustrators made The Last Unicorn, and I
Love
watched that
it.
one a
Yeah.
lot.
Yep. Oh, let me go grab something.
Okay, but I guess I'll ask for the people who are joining in, what inspired you? Is there any kind of book that was your favorite? But when you're, oh my gosh, the Red Bull, yes, I love that.
I absolutely loved that movie, and I've watched that movie probably over 100 times growing up and everything, and I've even got my kids watching it now. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that movie got me to realize, once I realized it was originally a book, to get the book, and the book is one of the few that I feel like almost word for word the movie did right by. So I
Oh,
enjoy
really?
both.
I've never actually read the book.
Yeah, it's
I know
almost
that's
word for word. It is fantastic. And but yeah, I recently showed my fiance the Last Unicorn, because I was like, I know it sounds, like a chick flick thing, but it's not. It's actually,
it's
just a
not.
fun epic fantasy story.
It really is.
Dealing with
I love
dragons.
so much about it. The movie, the music, the the prose, everything. It's awesome.
They have another comment that was mentioning Dealing with Dragons as another book they enjoyed. But yeah,
Okay.
we have
Not
a whole
familiar with
group
that
of
one.
dragon people right here. I love this. But going back to the Anne McCaffrey thing, I will admit I have not read the whole series. I picked up a few because I think my issue was I never knew what order they were supposed to go in. So I picked one up, loved it, thought it was like very medieval, picked another one up, I was a little confused by it, and it took me I just randomly grabbed the third one, where I realized we're dealing with kind of a sci-fi fantasy fusion concept, and it blew my mind. I was like, you can do that? You can set dragons in the way future, post spaceships? What is this madness? No, I absolutely that series is fascinating to me.
That is awesome. Are there any modern like epic fantasy series that are your favorites that are more contemporary?
Okay, so that's the trick, because I got sucked into this wormhole of loving mythology and then trying to find where the origin came. So my bookshelves are pretty heavily into like the Iliad, the Aeneid, the Ramayana, Icelandic sagas for the Viking kind of style era. So only probably after joining this platform did I start challenging myself once again to read modern um, fantasy and contemporary work. So I'm trying to get myself back into it. But yeah, I was going to say most of the stuff outside of probably, and I guess you have to debate how contemporary it is at this moment, would be Game of Thrones, because I loved
Okay.
it. But even still, it's been a moment since the last book came out.
A little bit.
A little bit.
I have the opposite problem. Like I dove into some of these like massive, more contemporary series. Like they're so massive, I haven't even finished them yet. But I spent years reading Stormlight Archives and Malazan Book of the Fallen that I was like, okay, I need to stop and I need to go and read some more his like older classic, going back to, the older days. So I went back and like listened to the Belgariad and, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm kind of doing the same thing, but just on the other end of the spectrum.
Well, I think that's a good thing for any writer, whatever your genre, is to challenge yourself to read in the genre and also challenge yourself to read outside of your genre, because both of them will prove to be beneficial for you in some way. You may not realize it at the time, but it's very interesting, because I'm very focused into a singular character's point of view in third person. That's my niche. That's what I write. That's what I've read a lot. But my
Right.
last 3 books have been first person. point of view,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's so foreign to me. I can't tell if I like it or not. I just don't know. I don't know how I feel about,
Mm.
but it is challenging me to see and read from a different point of view, a different style of writing, and makes me actually consider, should I try to ever down the line dabble with it? Maybe not. Again, it is so far out of my comfort zone. I have a couple more
Hmm.
comments popping up. One says, Old Man's War, the day of the Trifots? Oh my god, I don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize. Trifots? And then another one says, Me Too blew my mind. I'm assuming it was referring to one of our talks of some of the earlier representation of fantasy books. But yes, no, so when you write multiple perspectives? You were talking about how you have a big cast. Are you a multi-perspective?
So, if I'm being transparent, when I first started, I was a complete train wreck. My POVs were all over the place. There was head hopping and all kinds of just really bad habits. But I've worked pretty hard to try to improve that and get better and be more clear, get away from the head hopping. So, like in the larger series where there's a big cast of characters, I do. Let's see, like in the my work in progress right now, which is going to be the final book in that series. I mean, there's probably you probably experience about 10 different perspectives at this point, maybe 12 different characters, POVs. But I've tried to make it to where, like, when you get in a chapter, if at all possible, it's all one POV through that chapter. Now, sometimes because of the story, there might be a reason to do that, but trying to make sure that there's like a scene break where it's a clear transition, so it's not disorienting to the reader. But really, if possible, like trying to really kind of flex the creative muscle a little bit to make myself effectively tell the story without having to continually shift the POVs within the chapter. Um, but like the whole world is coming to an end. It's the epic conclusion. They're trying to save the world type of thing. And our heroes, sometimes they come together, but they keep getting scattered throughout the world. So you have to visit these different perspectives. And one thing that I do, some people do this, some people don't, but I also give you the villain's perspective as well.
I
So
like that.
there are chapters where you're seeing a limited third person omniscient perspective from the villain's vantage point. So and so that's kind of how I do that. But what it does is it makes, for me personally, maybe other people are more skilled at this, but it makes it a much slower process to get the writing done, because not only is it really complex, there's so many different story arcs that are going on at the same time, and then it's all the chronology of all the different perspectives, all the different events lining up to make sure that it's one good cohesive overall story arc and that everything comes together. So whereas when I'm writing the shorter books, generally it's like one or two POVs, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might switch off between chapters where, like, it's either the female's perspective or it's the male's perspective. But even when the side characters come in, you're not hopping into their heads. And so what it does, it allows me to write a lot faster,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Oh, that totally makes sense. And I'm going to read some of these comments and then get back to you in just 1 second. Okay, so yes, POV means point of view. So yes, the point of view of your character. Sorry, so I want clarification. And another one comment says, yes, that is challenging to write multiple point of views. I've not done that. I've been intimidated. I do want to challenge myself, but I've not done that. Another
Okay.
comment was asking, why do you think separate cultures all have dragons? Chinese, English, European, Viking culture, etc. I mean, personally, I think different cultures, there are a lot of those kind of archetypes that pop up, and it's even when dealing with creatures, vampires or vampire-like entities are all around the world. I mean, all around the world. And it is interesting how certain things do kind of crop up. As for the dragon, I mean, yes, they do, some kind of reptilian creature pops up a lot, but all those cultures have reptile-like creatures in reality. And if you look at their dragons, they change drastically. Some deal with the water and the ice and others fly, and others are more fire elements. Some are beneficent creatures, others are evil. So yes, there are dragons, but they're also vastly different in many ways. So it is kind of hard to truly compare. Sorry, that was a comment. Do you have anything
No,
else
that's
to say on the
totally
dragon?
that's totally cool. Like if you think of even like the Bible, right? So the Bible even
Mhm.
talks about a fire breathing dragon. And this is a book that's extremely old. And it's not only a very old book, but it's a book that has proliferated all around the world. Right. So and it's not the only ancient text that talks about these mythological beasts as if that they're real, right? And so you have these all around the world from all these different cultures. It's really interesting.
Yes, I love watching or reading books that have takes on the why that is. I am a writer who sets in an epic style, so not Earth, but there are definitely certain fantasy, kind of more urban, that do explain or try to explain stuff like that, where about are dragons real? Were they real? How can they
Yeah,
be everywhere, all around the world? I think those are kind of fun stories too.
for sure. For sure.
If you were trying to write outside of your genre right now, what would you do? Would you slip? And it can be within fantasy too. I'm not kicking you out of fantasy, but you do have a very strong niche. So if you had to push yourself to try something different, what would you do?
I mean, I definitely have some nonfiction stuff in the works, and so there's that whole thing. But as far as fiction goes, there's definitely some sci-fi stuff that's interesting to me. It's a little intimidating to me that I don't think that I'm certainly not well read in it. I have so little time to read. I only have time really to read fantasy stuff. So I'm not well read in sci-fi. I
Well,
watch sci-fi movies.
I'm interjecting you because yes, you read. You read your stuff 1,002 times, and then you
Yes.
read it another 1,002 times. But
And typos still get through.
yes, sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to point that out. We do read
No,
a lot.
you're absolutely right. It's like the TikTok trending video where, reading it 178,000 times or whatever, right? That was really popular a few weeks ago, and it feels pretty accurate. So, um, yeah, I think, like if I were to do sci-fi, um, I like some of the dystopian, like the Hunger Games style stuff. Not so much the angry boy, crazy, confused 16-year-old girl, but just the dystopian arena setting. Like that's
Oh yeah,
cool to me. And I also like on sci-fi side, I really like the very heavily influenced Star Wars space opera where it's like sci-fi magic technology, the science fantasy or whatever. Like that's always really cool to me. I don't think that's my strength to do. It's interesting to me, but I don't think that that's in my wheelhouse.
yeah. It was a comment saying funny fantasy with a comical hero. Honestly, you know what? I haven't challenged myself to have a comedic hero. I have a couple comedic side characters that I absolutely
Mhm.
love them, but I've never had a comedic main character. But I do kind of, again, with my darker series, it's a darker reality. So maybe I should challenge myself and put some more humor in. Do you have a humorous character in yours? Or either of yours?
I do. Well, so in like my larger series, there's a number of side characters that are at different points in the story, and there's like the snarky banter that everybody really wants these days, and just a lot of just the snarkiness. I don't even know how to qualify it other than that, but there's a lot of just the little witty little comments here and there. But then readers really get mad when the funny person ends up dying. So
Oh,
there's
yeah,
there's
that's
that.
a problem.
So there is
I
that.
know that problem. Yes, I understand.
So yeah, especially if you're a Game of Thrones fan. So
Ah,
everybody's dying. So I mean,
yep,
there's that.
yep.
In my other series, it's basically I wasn't really trying to be super tropey when I wrote it, but you basically, and I still don't know how to define it. Like it's adult fantasy, but the MC, she's like new adult. She's like 18, 20 age
Yeah.
range. And she's like really cool, but she's also like super immature in certain areas.
Mhm.
But the love interest, the other main character, he's older than her,
Mhm.
and it's kind of almost not enemies to lovers, but they definitely don't like each other at first. And so there's a whole lot of banter, and it is funny to me. I just think it's funny because it's a lot of like just snippy remarks back and forth, and just a lot of tension building through the books as they're forced to work together. Forced proximity to an extent. So
Oh, I love that. I love characters, and I think that's one of the things it's a draw for people, especially if you're writing a series where romance isn't your main thing. I don't write romance as my main thing, but to have characters still have romance, there's a difference, a big difference, and it's always good to have
yeah,
that and have different shades of that. So, like you were saying, it's your snippy remarks, your banter. In some of my series in my dark fantasy, it's not the main pair, but one of the other pair, I have my comedic guy, and he's obsessed with this woman. If we were going to the Game of
okay,
Thrones reference, Tormund, and how he was in love, with the tall woman. Well, the female in that is a shield maiden, so she's very cut and dry. She's serious. She's, concerned about her reputation, and he's just so enamored with her. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to still pursue you. What are you going to do? Cut off my ear? Here's the other one. I'm still coming after you.
oh wow.
So it's always fun to have like different style romances, even if they never fully bloom, but that's part of life. And fantasy is just a great way to show different snippets of life. Okay, some more
Yeah,
comments are popping up. Yay, I love comments. Okay, one says, loving our chat, and we'll be looking into both of our books. Yay, please do.
sweet.
And another one says, I was in the Navy, submarines, right home, but not allowed to say anything to my sons. I eat, I sleep. Woo! But yeah, no. Let me see. So I made Myron the Bold and wrote stories about him. Okay, well that's cool.
That's
Interesting.
awesome.
I love hearing like how people, get into writing. I love it. Okay, yes. Okay, so let me ask you, because this is always something I know people who are interested in writing or are writers and authors still like to know, is how do you market your own books? Because everybody approaches it
Poorly.
differently. Poorly. Well, we all are trying to learn. So it's always interesting to see what you're doing, what works for you or is not working, because everybody's different. I have definitely weak points I'm trying to improve on. But yeah, so how do you like to meet new readers?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. And for me, I've definitely taken courses. I've gone through like the self-publishing formula, Mark Dawson's ads for authors courses, and a number of other courses. And I think I still haven't cracked the code for what works with my books when it comes to paid advertising. So for
Yeah,
me,
I'm with you.
it's really been the organic engagement with community. Um, there's so many Facebook groups out there, and they're awesome, but they're all so large, and it's a lot of them are full of authors all trying to get their books in front of readers. TikTok has been great. I've only been on TikTok now for, I don't know, 4 months, maybe 3 or 4 months, and it's
No, I
been
feel
great.
like I've seen you the whole time, because I was like, oh, you've been on here forever.
It kind of feels like that, but it's really only been a few months. But then you have the challenge with TikTok where it's so romance focused and trying
At least
to
initially,
really,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. And to your point, like, although there's romance in my books and some people really enjoy the romance that's there, it's not the central
Mm-hmm.
theme. It's not the genre. It's just a part of life, like you said, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's there. So But TikTok has been huge. I've done a lot of giveaways, a lot of like audience sharing with other authors in similar genres. And so that's really good. And one of the things that we started recently, so a little shameless plug here, we started a Discord community specifically for NobleBright Fantasy about we actually started working on it maybe about 2 months ago, and we did like our grand opening where we officially were open to the public at the beginning of the month. And we have like about almost 150 members now. A lot of them are authors who write in this genre, but it's readers are coming in, editors are coming in, artists are coming in, and it's just a place to hang out and just share your love of this genre or anything fantasy related. And so we have people in there sharing fantasy art, or maybe they're 3D printing miniatures because they play D&D. Like it's a place. And so it's been really fun, but it's also us as authors who write in a similar genre. If somebody really likes my books, there's a good chance they're probably going to like somebody else who writes in that similar genre. So it's that sharing of audience and saying, hey, you're probably going to like this lady's books, or you're going to like this guy's books if you like mine. So really just trying to build an organic community where we're saying, hey, we do have a very clear niche of what we generally write, but if you like that, you're probably going to like a lot of the stuff we have.
That's fantastic. I love that. No, yeah, I've been watching, like, and for anybody who doesn't know, he has fantastic giveaways, beautiful bundles of books, but not just books, but all sorts of thematic items and posters. And I think I saw even one of yours have like talking about those printed 3D characters. Am I correct? Or you had some kind of characters?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
fantastic stuff. I think that's so cool. And like for me, I am so bad at trying to figure out book merch. I'm like, do you want a bookmark? What?
Yeah.
But no, I love seeing your stuff there. It's fantastic. And one day I will challenge myself and try to win one, but you never know. It's just not my luck this time.
Yeah, we've done the giveaway for a few years now, and I think this one's probably going to be my last one, just because of the amount of work that goes into it and the money. But it has been a way to connect with a lot of readers that they see the prize pack, and then when they get over there, like, oh, like these are your books. You and 5 other authors are putting these signed books out there, as well as all these other goodies. This big canvas print and miniatures and a coffee mug, and it's all themed around fantasy. And like I think the first year we did dragons, so everything was dragon related, right? And so we've tried to do that to make it a whole lot of fun, and it's just different ways to create kind of not just a brand awareness, but just getting our names out there. And they talk about in sales, like often a consumer has to see something 7 times before they're going to make a purchase.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with our brand, right? Like when somebody comes across your name for the first time, they might be skeptical. They might not even notice it. But if they, to your point about TikTok, if they see your name over and over again, it changes their behavior as a consumer. So, I mean, that's just a part of it. So I try to keep it super organic, but just try to be creative in how we do that.
I love it. No, it's again goes back to that. How do you reach people? And yes, I've been working my way through that Mark Dawson's ads for authors course, and been taking a long time trying to figure that out. I think I'm on that edge of doing it, but I'm not sure. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to figure out the algorithm's going to change, and I'll be back to square one. But that's the advertising. But no, outside of that, yes. No, I love trying to see what platforms, and again, this platform has been an amazing way to reach people, and not just people, other authors, and connect and find other people in your niche. And I've been learning terms like, didn't know portal fantasy was a subgenre, and I'm like, oh, I have one. That's it.
I do that. Yeah.
Yes, NobleBright. Oh, I got one. So it's a learning experience too for people when you interact and engage, and I think it's great.
It really is. Like I've had so many authors over the past like 2 months reach out to me and say, I didn't even know NobleBright was a genre, but it's what I write, and I've been writing it for years, and I didn't know how to market it. And I'm like, well, I didn't create it. I just discovered that there was a definition out there that actually fit what I wrote, and we're grabbing it and we're running with it.
Yes,
So
run with it.
yeah. So like the portal fantasy thing, I get it. Like once you're like, oh, that's what I do. That's what this is. It's exciting. So
Oh yeah, and then now it like makes sense, and I like go back to some of the classics and like Robert Jordan, Portal Fantasy, Narnia by C.S. Lewis,
portal
Portal
fantasy.
Fantasy. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, look
exactly.
me, I'm here.
Exactly. Yep, that's
Oh,
exactly right.
but yeah, no, okay. So obviously, I saw print. What other formats do you have for your book? Because I'm the paperback, hardcover, ebook, soon to be audio person. How about you?
Yeah, so right now most of my books are in paperback. I have one or two that are ebook only. They're not, well, I shouldn't say only. They're not in print because they're so short
Yeah.
that if they fit the size profile of the rest of the series, they're too thin to even have a spine. It was decisions I made a long time ago that didn't have the foresight
Yeah, yeah,
to,
I understand.
because it's like a companion novella, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like 80 pages, so it's
Mm-hmm.
so thin. So but I have, everything's in ebook. I have a short story that I wrote for a publisher. I don't own the rights to it. They paid me to write it, and they did put that into audiobook. That's the only one that I have in audiobook yet.
That's
I'm
pretty cool.
hoping next year to try to do a Kickstarter
Mm-hmm.
to try to go down the audiobook route. But if you're looking to pay a narrator, like I've done the math on some of my books. Even if I did,
I can tell you,
oh
it
my
is not
goodness.
cheap.
No, like this series, these are small books. This trilogy, if I did just this trilogy in audiobook, and this is the size of one of my other books, this is going to be around $10,000. And there's no promise you're going to make that money back anytime soon. So, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here to you. You already get this, but it's such a big investment to be able to do that. And then if you go the ACX royalty share route, that's fine, but you'll never own the rights to it. And
Well,
so,
it takes a long time before that can open up. But yeah, it's one of those things you have to decide what's you want. And for listeners, because what I'll be doing is posting this on YouTube and tagging, putting all your media and tags underneath. But for
okay,
listeners who don't know what some of these terms are, ATX is the platform for Audible, and
okay,
you can, as an author, have a chance to pay someone outright, narrate it yourself, or split any not income. Why? I can't even think the right term right
the
now.
royalties. Yeah,
Royalties. Yes, they'd split the royalties 50-50 for 7 years with your narrator. So that way you don't have to put the upfront money. And a lot of people I've heard from authors, especially new authors, go that route because it's financially savvy. But I've also heard people move toward the whole pay upfront because then you get all the royalties yourself forevermore right off the bat. So
right.
there's a lot of risks into, all into that, and we'll see how it goes. I'm crossing fingers. My first one, kind of talking about your novellas, that's why my novella series was not in print for the longest time. But now
Mhm.
that I have 6 out, I'm bundling them in groups of 4 into a print version. So they're omnibus versions, 4 in 1. So they have that spine, as you're saying, versus like,
Yeah,
those little flippant things. I wanted them to look right on the shelf. So people have to wait until bundles of 4 come out so you can get your physical copy. But the audiobook, the first one, could be dropping any day. ACX platform is really weird and it's like up to 10 to 14 days. We'll potentially release it if we have approved everything. And I'm like, well, when? I can't market a release. When are you releasing it?
right.
But that one's really cool. And I have to say this one because I'm so excited. I just have to say it. That narrator I got for that series, it's a Vikings fantasy, is an actor from the Vikings TV series. George
Oh, wow.
Flagman played the priest character in the early seasons. So he's narrating my book, and I was just like, oh!
That is so cool.
So
That is so cool.
that is my a super level of achievement I never thought I was going to get. I was just like, oh! So
That
hopefully,
is fantastic.
I hope it works. Hope it works out for me, because this is a new frontier. I feel like Star Wars, Star Trek. Oh no, I flipped him. The final frontier. Oh well, but
When are you hoping that series is ready in like just roughly in audiobook to release?
oh, you mean like well, the audiobook, since I'm releasing one at a time, the first one is going to be, like I said, it could be any day now. I have been spending
Okay.
weeks now preparing all the posts, so once I get that notification, it's up, I can like get the link and like start sharing. It's out. It's out.
Mm-hmm.
So that one any day now, but the series itself, it'll take a couple more years for me to finish. It's going to be a long novella series.
Oh, okay.
I've published 6, and there potentially is up to 16. It's a long
Okay.
novella series, but it's a retelling, which I again realized I'm going to categorize. It's a retelling of a obscure Nordic myth. So Norse
Okay.
mythology had enough, like you were mentioning earlier, had enough world to play in and enough story to
Yeah.
play with. So it ended up being a longer series. So it'll be a moment before it's entirely out and audible, but so I'm working as fast as I can.
I definitely love the whole Viking mythology and the whole culture, the whole Norse culture, and I wanna work it into my world with my smaller books. But it's not gonna be Asgard and the Nine Realms. It's gonna be in a whole different world. So it's like trying to transplant a piece of that culture,
Mm-hmm.
make it unique, but
Yeah.
still Viking, right? It's still got to look and smell and sound Viking,
Oh yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
transport it into a different world and hope it doesn't fail.
You got this. I have faith. I have faith. But yeah, I mean, I could totally see it. Instead of like 9 realms, you could have continents, or there are different ways you could twist things and make it unique, but still true to form. I mean, what do you need?
Yeah.
Elves, dwarves. I mean, some of the stuff that's already readily all over fantasy is, Vikings were the Norse mythology was the source, so it's there. You can
Yeah,
play with it and tweak it and have fun with it, and then maybe throw
that's right.
a long shift in periodically. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. Now, you talked about novellas. Now, just in case, people listening don't know, for when you're talking about the novellas for your Norse series, what is like your word count or maybe page count on those novellas?
I should be better with word count because that is more accurate. I am a page count person, and
Yep.
they're running 90 pages.
Okay.
So I mean, they're not
Okay.
they're 10 chapters. They're not. I've read my other series have longer chapters, so for me they're even smaller than normal chapters. But again, it's word count, page count, that can vary. I understand. But yeah, I think they're around, I think 90 to 100 pages is my novella.
Okay.
So not big enough again to feel confident trying to make a flip book.
Yeah.
But it's another reason why I can rapid release them. When I say rapid release, I try to do every other month, but I'm a little slow this year. Life just got in the way, so I'm trying.
Yeah, it happens. No, that's really cool. I mean, I know some other authors that they made their whole career and they're able to write full time now, starting out with short fiction, like novella length fiction, and
That's
just
good.
it's a long series. Like it's 9 books, but they all were 20,000, 25,000 words, right? But they were able to crank out a bunch of them, get a bunch out there, and as long as the writing's good and the characters in the story are interesting, right? It doesn't matter that they're not huge as long as, you find a way to market it, right? Because in epic fantasy, this is kind of what I was mentioning earlier. There is an expectation that the books are going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that my opinion is that the genre of epic or high fantasy is much more than just, the size of the spine.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. You can have an epic fantasy standalone book be perfect. You could have what I'm trying to attempt, a bunch of these mini ones, but ends up telling the sweeping tale throughout. There are different ways to brand epic fantasy. It's what it isn't is, modern day people wandering around a city and like jean shorts. Okay, that's not necessarily what we qualify epic fantasy. That's urban.
right,
But,
right.
epic fantasy can, be the home for a whole plethora of different type of stories, I
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it.
think. Well, we have reached already towards the end of the hour. Is there anything you would like to ask or cover or pitch before the end?
Um,
And viewers out there, if you have a question, throw it right now. For forever.
yeah, if they have any questions, that'd be great. No, I probably should have been more prepared for this.
I like the kind of comfortable ebb and flow. See, I have a timer ringing right now. Ebb and flow of just conversations because there's no pressure then to cover any topics. And I'm a person. At this point I can think of a million questions. I like to talk, so I can always ask questions.
Yeah, no, I think this has been great. I will say about the audiobook thing, I don't know if you've dealt with this pressure though. Just being like super transparent. I feel like because audiobooks, there's such a demand for them now, it almost feels like I'm suddenly not a legitimate author again until I get an audiobook. And I'm like, man, I'm working on my 10th book now. Like I shouldn't feel that way, but there's like this pressure. Have you felt that pressure, or is it more just about the opportunity?
I always had some people asking, and that were, people who actually knew face to face asked me about it, but I again would explain, the cost factor and the time dedication. There's a lot into it, especially early on when you're trying to find a narrator and have a working relationship, and there's a whole bunch of things to it. So, I always explained why I hadn't delved into it before. Now I have all three of my series are currently being configured into audiobooks with different actors, voice actors, and everything. So I'm in it right now. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully it works out. But the thing that I think got to me was when I have never made a truly trending video on this platform as of yet. I hope to change that. But I did have one video do well, very well, and I had a lot of people start asking for audio.
Okay.
And around the same time, I had someone contact me through my website and email me and was asking, hey, are my books in audio form? And saying that he can't see. He is essentially blind, and audio is the way he consumes books because, who turns books into Braille nowadays? It's really hard, and there are not many. So audio is the way he consumes books, and that struck me as well because I never considered, there are a group of people that literally cannot get a book unless it is in that format. And that I think was something that pushed me. And I was like, I want to be able to reach all people. It was one thing to say, oh, well, if they really want my stuff, they can get it in another format. But that's not always the case. And so I am making the effort. I'm crossing my fingers. We will see. We will see. It will be a journey, and hopefully a good journey. If not, it will be a tale to tell. But yeah, I'm crossing fingers. And if you do try to get into it, yes, they can get up to that ridiculous amount of money, but not always. And I, searching through different people through ACX did come across a bunch of people who, some I selected, some I didn't, but were fantastic narrators and did not cost that much. So
yeah.
You could probably, it is going to be costly, especially if you choose that I'm going to pay it up front, but it doesn't have to be as costly as what you initially were predicting. It just
Yeah.
Depends. And if you want to dabble maybe with one of your short ones and do the split fare just to get one out and see, you could always then maybe reassess and pay entirely for books 2, 3, 4 going forward,
Right.
and reassess that. So there are things here you can think about and figure out along your path.
So, the ACX, the royalty share, is a great option, and I'm thankful we have it. I'll just end with this, and I'm curious your thoughts, especially as someone who, you're an artist on the art side, like graphic art, right? So I had a friend, a fellow author, a few years ago, who started a petition on like change.org to try to create basically to get Amazon to create a platform to do a royalty share with cover artists. And I thought that was interesting because if you're talking like really high end art, now you can get stuff you'll be blown away at the price you pay. But when they start becoming well known, like I have an author friend, he pays like $3,500 per cover.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking like Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan level of cover art, right? So you're talking high end.
Yeah.
But I was just curious your thoughts on that as someone who also is an artist on the visual medium side.
I mean, as an artist, I could see the perks of certain artists liking the ideas, especially some who are trying to get their name known, be interested in participating in some kind of platform like that. Because, I mean, everybody who's trying to essentially pay the bills with their art form, be it writing or literally a painting form or a drawing or sculpture, I mean, having different options open to you is appealing. Now, again, there's a lot of things to consider. Is this a permanent thing? Is this so many years, kind of like ACX does, before you can reassess? And those are things to consider because as an author, you make very little with each book. It looks like, when someone pays whatever the price tag is, you're making a fraction of that. And then if you're trying to split further, it's hard on the writer side. So I see pros and cons, but I wouldn't be opposed to having that option out there. That doesn't mean I myself would take it as a personal individual.
Yeah. Yep. I'm in the same boat as you.
But no, I never thought about that, but it is an interesting thing, and would be kind of curious to see how something like that pans out, either through the KDP or ACX platforms and going forward. But no, that's interesting.
Yeah. I got a comment over here, and I know we're over on time. They said, I definitely feel a narrator can make or break an audiobook.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And I'm always curious because I have 3 different series and they're all branching different ways because I don't listen to audio books. That is, I will be honest, I didn't. So I didn't know what an attractive narrator is supposed to be outside of does the voice appeal to me personally. And there are different tastes. There are so many different tastes. It sounds like some people prefer a great narrator voice. Others want someone who can do a variety of voices and make them believable. So, and I'm a person who likes it all. I wish you could have it all. But yeah, I worked really hard because my young adult one has a female narrator and she's really, really good. I have George Blagden for my Vikings series and he's fantastic. His, again, coming out soon. And then for my Incarne Saga, I got a voice cast and they're going to do the sound effects and each character has its own actor and actress. And I was just like, go big or go home. Let's do this.
That is awesome. I love it.
So they're a whole variety and I just don't know what's going to click with people. I hope people like my choices because I like them. But again, I'm not a typical consumer of audio. So crossing fingers.
So I love audio, and it's at first I didn't really know if I'd like it or not, but audio is like the only way I really get to consume books, and it's usually I'm cutting the grass and I have a little bit of time to myself while I'm doing yard work or something, and I have to put in the headphones or the earbuds. So I'm just so busy, it's hard to find that time. So the commute and stuff like that are where I usually squeeze that in. So I love audiobooks. But I think that that's probably, you know, made me a little bit of an audiobook and narrator snob, unfortunately.
Hey, no, I like. Hey, there's not people take snobbery as a horrible thing. I think sometimes it's good to have, your opinions and have enough experience where you respect what you like and you respect whatever it is enough that you want a certain level of quality.
Exactly.
Okay, one
It's
last
just
one
standard.
up, and I missed it earlier, so I apologize. I don't know if she's still here, but was asking for marketing tips for books. Okay, so what is your number one marketing tip? Let's do it that way. Let's do quick fire.
So my number one marketing tip is not even my own, but I just had a long chat with a fellow author and a buddy of mine last night, and he just echoed the same thing that every other person that's given me good advice along the way is the best publicity is to write the next book, right? And so just get that next book out there. And so that's it for me, and I'm just trying to do that. Mm-hmm. What about you?
That was actually a really good one. So if you're doing a true marketing tip, I would say for authors who are writers who are beginning, and maybe this is not specific enough, I don't know, would be start small and work upwards. In other words, don't do what I did, which was try to be on everything at once, is pick one or two platforms, social media platforms, or maybe really work hard on your newsletter in a social media platform, and make sure you can be the best you can be on those before you expand. And that will help you already, get a good following, and you're dedicating the time or effort, whatever those respectively need to do well, and you get a good reputation and make great content versus overwhelming yourself and trying to be on 18,000 platforms at once and doing a meh job at it. So start small and then increase would be the way I would advise. I did the opposite, so I know what you don't do. So start small, work up would be a good way, especially if you are starting out and aren't already established.
I think that that's fantastic. And don't do what I did. Don't let your first platform be something like Twitter. So
I never figured that one out. I'm working so hard. It took me until about 2 weeks ago to realize you can schedule things on that platform. And I was like, oh.
Well, man, Twitter used to be good. Twitter was great in 2011. And so I put so much time, and I had a massive following, and then people just abandoned the platform. And so I had this account with a massive following with nobody actually there. And I don't even hardly do anything on the platform anymore, but pick a good platform. Good luck.
Platforms constantly change. I mean, that's the thing. There's going to be something new in another 2 years, and that is one thing to consider. Is you have to be gutsy to decide if you should jump on the bandwagon early, which I did not do early enough, I feel like, on this platform, on the book app. But now that I'm on, I'm glad. I just do kind of in the back of my mind worry that something's going to crop up right when I start finally getting it.
That's part of the reason too why we created the Discord community, the NobleBright Alliance, because it was a community that we could control. Now, we don't own the platform, but we own the server. And so as long as it's kind of like a Facebook group, right? As long as Facebook's around, it's your group, you can do what you want. But we wanted a platform where we could control the messaging, and we're not worried about our messages not being heard because of some algorithm, right? We didn't want our views to be suppressed or our communications to be blocked or only partially distributed to a select segment of that audience. And so, it's still a platform that somebody else owns at the end of the day. So build your newsletters, right?
Oh, yes.
Build your newsletters.
They're great. But I may have to afterwards, tap you on the virtual shoulder and talk to you more about this Discord community, because now that I know I have a series that fits in that category.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Reach out anytime. Let me know. There's also a link in my bio, like the link tree or whatever. There's a
Yeah.
link in there too for anybody that's interested. But yeah, come check it out.
Perfect. And I'll be posting again your information below when I reshare this next week on
Okay.
YouTube. So hopefully it'll be a
Sweet.
place where people can find you and get to know you better through your plethora of social media.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time to come and chat tonight. This was a whole lot of fun.
Thank you. I'm so glad we could actually work out and like meet each other. Because again, I've been following your post a lot, and I just find your work fascinating. And now I might have to go and get some more books.
Yeah, I think I have the same problem right now too. I'm looking at the Norse series there. So
That one is again on the darker side of things, or will edge into the darker side of things. Just for warning, in case you're not a
yep.
fan of the darker fantasy, that's why I do a variety. But if you are, it's out there. It has your name
Awesome.
on it. Okay, well, thank you again for coming out, and I will be in touch with you soon.
All right. Thanks. You have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.